So, lads, we gotta just talk a little bit about the whole A'ja Wilson saying that she feels unsafe playing in Indiana because, quote unquote, SH1T could pop off. And I think it's reckless. I think it's a completely reckless quote, and I don't like what Brittany Griner said either about how, or even Stewie is like alluding to bad stuff all being Indiana Fever fans because let's be real. Like, we watch these games. Indiana played Phoenix once in Indiana, and not one bad word was said after that game. Not one bad word was said at that game. They obviously all waited until Indiana were out, by the way. They made sure to pile on. And you can hear the Indiana Fever players. They are the ones who were there, saw the crowd for 40 games. NaLyssa Smith, let's be real. At the end of the season, NaLyssa Smith, if she had a problem with the Indiana Fever fans that were at the games, she would not have stayed quiet on that one. But no, even when the whole team were annoyed, she was the one that stayed on signing autographs for the kids, taking pictures with the kids. And if you've looked at the crowd for the Fever, and I think the Fever are, I'll talk a little bit about this, but I think they are the pinnacle of what sports should be. As far as just bringing everybody together. If you just look at this team, you've got Caitlin Clark from Iowa. You've got Katie Lou, who went to the powerhouse in UConn. You've got Aaliyah Boston, who was a South Carolina player, played under Dawn Staley. You've got Erica Wheeler, who was undrafted, fought her way into the WNBA and became the All-Star MVP. You've got Christy Wallace, who's Australian. You've got Damaris Dantas, who's Brazilian. You've got Temi Fagbenle, who's English. You've got obviously Grace Berger, who's local, who's from Indiana. Who else is on the team? Lexi Hull, Grant. Trying to just think of anything. But and then if you look at the fan base, it's almost entirely families bringing their kids. And it's not families of one demographic. It is families of all demographics that are basketball fans. Because the reality is that basketball is a universal language. As somebody that is only, albeit coached in Ireland, but has coached players I've coached players from Argentina, coached plenty of Americans, coached Canadians, coached Spanish players. I coach in a college, have coached Greek players, French players, Moroccans, players from all over the world. Basketball is the universal language at the end of the day. And sport can be one of the great uniters. Obviously, there's going to be division no matter what. But I have a real big problem with what A'ja Wilson is trying to do because what she is trying to do is bring division. She is trying to bring division. And talking about how she feels scared in Indiana. What, those 12-year-old girls going crazy? You feel scared doing that? I understandable. Nika Mule, Gabby Williams saying they felt scared in Turkey when people are launching stuff on the floor. But we saw the post where it was an ominous feeling. The fans cheering, I was frightened when the fans were cheering. That's basically what A'ja Wilson said. That is basically what A'ja Wilson said was a problem in Indiana, was that she was scared being in the building because basically shit could pop off. And what do you mean? The worst thing that could happen is a bunch of young teenage girls scream and hit a decibel too loud that maybe you hear it or something. Maybe it affects you or something. But also, let's not forget, your fans were the ones who booed De'Erica Hamby. Your fans were the ones who booed De'Erica Hamby. If we're talking about fans in person being a problem, it is the Aces fans. It is the Aces fans. And if you want to keep sharing that picture of the person with band nails, and if people are being oh, people do that all the time in men's games, people do that all the time in other sports, I'm yeah, but it's different when there's kind of a different culture of doing something like that. When there's not really a hazing player culture, you can't really haze players. For example, football chants. If someone tried to do that in a WNBA game or even an NBA game, it wouldn't be probably accepted, especially with some of the stuff that people say. But it's just kind of more socially accepted there. And then, if, for example, if you're a rugby fan and you're saying anything to a player, it's just not accepted at all. So and obviously if you start chanting at a tennis game, it's not going to be accepted. So it's different things. There's different cultures. There's different things that people should and shouldn't do depending on where they are. So the person should have been told to take it off, but I don't think the person should have been fully kicked out or been plastered all over social media, because I think that it was more like, if that was done, people were saying, right, if something similar was done in an NBA game, no one would bat an eye. But I do think, given the context of the game, given the context of the rest of the people around them, they should have been told to take it off. But if you're going to share that one picture, and that's one out of 600,000 fans in the same game where a player called Caitlin Clark the C word and prayed, or not a player, a fan, and prayed on her to get injured with credentials. But yeah, he's not talked about, and people are still going to share that. It's a problem. And that's the thing, where it's like, there's 600,000 Indiana fans. If she's going to go and make sure that one of them, one of 600,000, is why she's scared to play Indiana, obviously she hadn't said that. She just made sure to say this. But again, that was a big look at me interview. It was. That was a big interview where it was just look at me. But I do think no matter what people are saying, it's dangerous, because the All-Star game is going to be in Indiana. And I think we're already hearing rumblings on Twitter, and we know that these WNBA players are ran by Twitter. Whatever the prevailing notion on Twitter is, outside of the Indiana Fever, the Minnesota Lynx, like, the actual professional organizations, but most of them just listen to Twitter. And the prevailing thing on Twitter now is, for player safety, get it out of All-Star Week. Get All-Star Weekend out of Indiana. Player safety, Indiana, who had everything already set up for the freaking NBA All-Star Weekend last year, who have generated more money for every other team than any other team. Like, I'm pretty sure, is the Atlanta Dream or something, they played twice against Indiana, and it was like 30% of their season's attendance were those two games. So I think that that's all what this is leading up to. I think this is all leading up to that. And I think these players are planting the seeds for saying they're going to refuse to play in Atlanta. Or in Atlanta, in Indiana. I think the players are planting the seeds for this. And the biggest issue I have with it all is that there's a very much difference between complaining about the trolls online. It's one thing equating them to Caitlin Clark, which is bullshit. But it's one thing talking about the trolls online, because it's very, very easy to equate trolls to a certain person, equate trolls to a certain group, especially if they don't have their faces behind things. Heck, even some of them do. And I'm like guilty of it myself at times. I have definitely equated troll accounts, even if they have real people's faces, to the prevailing opinion in general. I'm guilty of it myself, and like, I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna probably do it again. Realistically, I'm gonna probably do it again. And that's one thing, because it's an easy mistake to make, especially when you are almost making decisions or saying things out of emotion, or when you're saying things without a script, or saying things without necessarily thinking about every word you're saying, which a lot of people do, myself included. The problem is that you have painted an entire fan group, and these are not, like, you've painted an entire fan group, people of all races, all walks of life, all ages, as dangerous. Not even painting them as racists, which is, everyone knows is not true. Like, everyone knows is not true. We've seen, like, the people in person. Obviously, there are people online that have latched on to this team that are. Like, no one's talking, like, no one has any problem with people calling out them. But it's, you have called 600,000 people that go to games, that cheer on a team, that are the most supported team in the history of the sport, that are nothing but good for the game. And if these fans were not good for the game, the likes of someone like Alyssa Smith would have said something about them. We wouldn't have heard likes of Erica Wheeler, Kelsey Mitchell talk so glowingly about the fans in person. We wouldn't have heard Caitlin Clark doing the same thing. Like, these are the pinnacle of WNBA fans. Maybe the Liberty fans are there, but like, they're the pinnacle. They are the gold standard of what WNBA fans are going to be. I think the Valkyries is going to be the same. And I can guarantee you the Valkyries is going to have the exact same atmosphere. There's going to be a lot of kids there, a lot of crazy cheering, but it's not a problem. Do you want to know why it's not a problem? Because Caitlin Clark's not there. This has nothing to do with the Indiana fans. This is Aja Wilson trying to make sure that she is still seen as on top. And the difference with this is, I think it's a dangerous rhetoric. I think it's a really dangerous rhetoric, because you're now making it, especially because she is a respected figure, and obviously she's unbelievably good at the sport she plays, but her words carry more weight, and she has effectively said that the mostly kids and families are dangerous at these games, and or at least implied it. Maybe sorry, I'll do an L Duncan. I'm just gonna get rid of my whole point because I might have misspoke. But yeah, and I think that's reckless. I think it's an absolutely reckless thing to say, and I just hope that it's not repeated, because my gut feeling is that we're going to be seeing more and more reckless takes like this, and it's all in a push to get the game out of Indiana. Why is it a push to get the game out of Indiana? Is it because the players don't feel safe? No, it's because they don't want the game to go to Caitlin Clark. They don't want the WNBA, or she doesn't want the WNBA to do anything, to go to Caitlin Clark for anything. She wants Caitlin Clark to build up her. She doesn't want to have to do anything to build up Caitlin Clark. That's my theory on it. That's my theory. I could be wrong. I don't know AJ Wilson. I'm just making judgment based on what I've read. And I'm fully willing to be wrong. Because, again, we're now seeing people talk about, like, again, you're going to call out her fans, the fans in person that cheer. I can guarantee you something about her family is going to be said at some stage. Something about her boyfriend is going to be said when everyone like, oh, he was liking like anti-Angel Reese stuff. I'm like, yeah. Right after the Kennedy Carter cheap shot, he liked a negative tweet about Angel Reese. I'm sorry, we all live in the real world. If somebody, let's be real, if Kennedy Carter did that on the street, it's an assault. Like, back turned right into the back. And in sports, so it's obviously different. If somebody did that to anyone's girlfriend or wife, and then someone on the sideline jumped up and started cheering them on, and you read a negative tweet about the person who jumped up and cheered them on, you probably would like it. Like, there's nothing against that. Like, Caitlin Clark's well within her right to dislike Angel Reese. Like, based on the actions, nothing to do with, like, any stereotype. Based on actions, Caitlin Clark's well within her right to not like Angel Reese. I'm sorry, like, in basketball, I played at a decent enough level. I played at technically at the professional level. Like, I wasn't being paid, but like, I played with a lot of guys that were being paid. It was technically pro ball. If I saw a video and I saw someone that didn't like me run up behind me, do basically Nikola Jokic to Markieff Morris me, and then I saw somebody jumping up on the sideline, cheering it on, I wouldn't have taken the high road. I would have sent him into the wall the next time we played. And you better believe if it was a higher level people were tweeting about it, I'd be liking all those tweets. But Caitlin Clark's a better person than I am. Conor McCaffrey may not be, but that's fine. That's fine. I would have done the same. I would have done the same. And I think if we're being honest, all of us would have done the same. This has nothing to do with like a Caitlin Clark Angel Reese beef. This is literally like her cheering or getting hit. But that's the thing, is like, people are finding problems with her family now. They're finding problems with her fans. They're going to find problems. No one's going to find problems with Aja Wilson hanging out with a guy who assaulted a child and has said some of the worst things possible about Caitlin Clark. Like, genuinely, like, tried to band up WNBA players and media to put in a police report to get Caitlin Clark arrested. No. Angel Reese or Aja Wilson's fine being friends with that person. That's fine. But, you know, all the other stuff just is a problem. It is a problem. But the reality of the situation is that I do think what Angel Reese or what Aja Wilson is doing is dangerous. I don't think what Angel Reese is doing is dangerous, by the way. Like, keep her podcast going. Good listen. People are interested. Keep it going. I think what Aja Wilson is doing is extremely dangerous. It is extremely, extremely dangerous, because all it's doing is creating, and it's not creating racial division, it's creating an us against the world division. It's going to, if you constantly tell someone there's something, eventually they're going to be that. And the Indiana crowd is as good a crowd as we've seen. But if you're going to constantly say that the Indiana crowd and their fans are one thing, eventually they're going to be. Eventually they're going to be. And that's the problem. I don't think, by the way, it's going to go towards the line of them being racist. I just mean a toxic fan base. And I think we're going to get to the stage where it might become that. But that's what Aja Wilson wants. she would gladly play in front of 1,000 people as long as she's number one, rather than play in front of 200,000 people every single game if she's number three. That's the one thing I've taken from A'ja Wilson, is she would rather be a big fish in a tiny pond than be one of the top 5 biggest players, biggest names in a multi-million-dollar thriving league. That's what I've taken from this. That's what I've taken from all of this. And I think people pushing for A'ja Wilson to be the face, people amplifying the stuff that she says, and people like basically pushing what she says as anything more than someone's desperate pleas for attention is going to be really, really dangerous and is going to set this league back years. Especially with the rookies coming through, who all seem to get on really well with each other, who all know what their goals are, who all know how to how to build an audience. They all know how to get fans. All these college players, they're in a position where their popularity is way higher than that of all the other players because they grew up in the TikTok generation. They know how to market themselves well. They know what to say. They know what not to say. They know they've been in bigger situations. They've been in, no offense, bigger leagues than this WNBA is. Especially the WNBA, pre-Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, this group of players. They've played in bigger leagues. They know what they're doing. And the reality of the situation is the league is only going on one trajectory. With Juju, Paige, Flau'jae, all these players, the league is only going on an upwards trajectory. The only way that they can tear it down is from the inside. The only way the WNBA stops growing is if it's being torn down on the inside. And the leader of the let's make this back the way it used to be is A'ja Wilson. A'ja Wilson has gotten more attention this year than ever before. But she's crying about the lack of attention because there's another player getting more attention than her. It doesn't matter for her that she's realistically probably going to get more brand deals than ever before. She's got more attention. She won the unanimous MVP. She's going to get a Nike signature shoe. She's going to make more money than ever before. But it's a problem now because even though she's making more than ever, there's someone making more than her. And by the way, if Caitlin Clark goes and tears her ACL and doesn't play next year, she's going to have a problem with Paige Beckers. But she won't, because Paige Beckers will probably just tell people to watch A'ja the whole time. She's going to have a problem with Angel Reese. Because Angel Reese isn't going to back down. No. Angel Reese is not going to back down. And we're going to see then, when Angel Reese's popularity way eclipses A'ja Wilson's, no. Angel Reese is not going to back down. Angel Reese is more Caitlin Clark than she is A'ja Wilson. Yeah, I know. She doesn't have much of a filter, whereas Caitlin Clark does. But as far as business brain, knowing how to promote themselves, knowing how to promote her team, the league, she's a lot more Caitlin Clark than A'ja Wilson. So I think it's only a matter of time until A'ja Wilson has a problem with Flau'jae, Angel Reese, Juju Watkins, just like she does with Caitlin Clark right now.